My boyfriend said he was proud of my new job. Then he stopped speaking to me because I worked 1 hour later than I promised. My family said they supported me too. Then they planned a weekend away and invited everyone except me. I'm 31. My boyfriend, Daniel, is 33. We have been together for almost 5 years. Until recently, I thought our relationship was stable, not exciting every day, not perfect, but kind. Daniel was patient when I lost my old job. He covered more of the bills. He never made me feel ashamed about it. When I was anxious, he listened. When I cried, he held me. That matters. It is also what made the change harder to understand. I was unemployed for 7 months, long enough to lose confidence, long enough to start asking Daniel before buying anything, long enough to feel like I had become a guest in my own life. Then, I found a remote position with an international company. The pay was better than my old job. The work was interesting. The hours were strange. 2 in the afternoon until 11 at night. Fridays ended earlier. It was not ideal, but it was a real chance to rebuild. Daniel said, "That's amazing. I knew you'd find something." He brought home wine. We celebrated. For the first time in months, I felt useful again. Then I started the job. On the first day, my internet failed. Daniel is much better with technology than I am. I asked if he could help. He said he was busy. I reminded him I was in the middle of onboarding. He sighed and said, "You always panic before trying anything yourself." I had already restarted the router, checked the cables, called the provider. I was not helpless. I just needed him. Eventually, he fixed it in 5 minutes. Then he said, "There, crisis over." The way he said it made me feel 12 years old. Dinner became the next issue. Before the new job, I cooked most evenings. Daniel shopped because he liked comparing prices. That arrangement had worked. With my new hours, I started preparing everything in the morning. He only needed to put the tray in the oven or finish the pasta. He said that was fine. It was not fine. The first evening, he ate cereal. The second, he ordered food. The third, he asked why I could not use my lunch break to cook. I said, "Because my lunch break is 30 minutes. He said, "You're home." I said, "I'm working." He replied, "It doesn't look like work when you're sitting 10 feet away." That sentence stayed with me because I had heard versions of it from my family too. If I worked from home, I was available. If I had no children, I was flexible. If I lived differently, my time seemed less real. My family has always called me independent. That sounds flattering. Usually it means they assume I do not need to be considered. My younger sister, Hannah, has 3 children. My brother, Lucas, has 2. Family plans are built around school schedules, nap times, and their spouses' jobs. I understand that. What I did not understand was why I was expected to adapt without ever being asked. A month after starting my job, my mother mentioned the annual family weekend. My grandparents were getting older, so my parents had rented a large house near a lake. Everyone would stay together, my siblings, their partners, their children, my aunt, my cousin. There were 14 people. I asked where I should send my share. My mother looked confused. She said, "Oh, we assumed you'd get a hotel." I asked why. She said the house would be noisy. She said I liked privacy. She said my late work schedule might disturb people. I said, "I don't work weekends." She said, "Well, the rooms are already assigned." I was the only person not included. There was a sofa bed. There was a small office. My brother's oldest child had a room alone. Nobody had asked me. They had simply decided. I booked a hotel. A nice one, too expensive, but I was tired of waiting to be chosen. Daniel thought I was overreacting. He said, "You do like being alone." I said, "That is not the point." He said, "Maybe they thought they were doing you a favor." I said, "Why does everyone keep deciding what I want without asking me?" He went quiet. Then he said, "Because when people ask, you make everything complicated." I stared at him. He immediately said he had phrased it badly, but I knew what he meant. I ask questions. I notice contradictions. I say when something hurts. My family calls that blunt. Daniel calls it overthinking. I call it wanting to understand the room I am standing in. The family weekend happened 2 weeks later. During the day, everyone gathered at the lake house. At night, I drove back to my hotel. One cousin from another side of the family asked why I was not staying with everyone else. I said, "I wasn't invited." That was all. I did not add details. I did not insult anyone. Still, the truth moved through the family faster than gossip usually does. My mother found me near the kitchen. She said, "Why would you say it like that?" I said, "Because that is what happened." She said, "You're making us look terrible." I said, "I answered a question." She said, "You could have said you preferred the hotel." I said, "But I didn't." My sister joined us. She said I could have asked to stay. I said, "You didn't ask." She said, "I have children." I said, "And I am still part of the family." The room went quiet. My mother said, "This is exactly why we thought the hotel would be easier." I said, "No, you excluded me, and now you are using my reaction as proof that excluding me was reasonable." That was the turning point, because I realized the same thing was happening with Daniel. He resented my job. Then, when I reacted to his resentment, he said I was difficult. My family excluded me. Then, when I told the truth, they said I created drama. The pattern was always the same. People made a decision that affected me. Then my response became the real offense. When I returned home Sunday, Daniel was sleeping in the guest room. I asked why. He said I had embarrassed him by telling my family he did not support my job. I had not said that. My sister had asked why he was not at the lake. I said he did not want to come because he was upset about my schedule. Apparently, she messaged him. Daniel said, "Private problems should stay private." I said, "Then why did you tell your brother I never cook anymore?" He said that was different. I asked how. He said, "I was venting." I said, "So, when you tell people your version, it is support. When I tell the truth, it is betrayal." He said I was twisting everything into a double standard. I said, "It is a double standard." Then he said something I had been feeling for weeks. "You changed when you got this job." I asked what changed. He said I was less available, less grateful, more defensive. I said, "I work now." He said, "You worked before and still made time." I said, "Before, I was building my life around your schedule." He looked hurt. Then he said, "I supported you when you had nothing." I said, "I know." He said, "And now that you are doing well, I feel like I do not matter." That was the first honest thing he had said. It did not excuse the resentment, but it explained it. For months, Daniel had been needed. He paid more, fixed things, made decisions. My new job did not only change my schedule, it changed his role. I told him, "I still need you. I just do not need permission anymore." He said, That's not what I want. I said, then why does my independence feel like rejection to you? He did not answer. Update 1. Daniel and I agreed not to move forward with buying a house together this year. That was our plan before all this. He thinks postponing means I have one foot out the door. I think signing a mortgage while we resent each other would be worse. Update 2. My mother apologized for the hotel situation. Sort of. She said, we should have communicated better. I said, you communicated with everyone else. She did not like that, but she eventually admitted they had assumed I would adapt, because I always had. Update 3. Daniel has started finishing dinner without acting like it is a favor. I have also stopped expecting him to read my mind. We now sit together for breakfast before he leaves for work. It is not the same as evenings, but it is ours. The deeper problem is still there. I want a relationship where someone is curious about me, not only supportive when I am falling apart, not only proud when my success is theoretical. I want someone who can watch me become stronger without treating strength like distance. Daniel is kind. My family loves me. I believe both things. I also believe people can love the version of you who fits easily into their lives and struggle with the version who takes up space. I do not want to be valued only when I am convenient. And I do not want every honest reaction to be used as evidence that I am the difficult one. Maybe Daniel and I can adjust. Maybe my family will learn to ask instead of assume. Maybe I will learn to speak before resentment builds. But I know I cannot go back to making myself smaller just because everyone found that version easier to love.